Good morning. Today's presentation is going to be about healthy communication with students. My name is Megan Gubiza. I'm a teacher and a graduate student in the school counseling program at Gwynedd Mercy. So an overview of this presentation. First, we'll be talking about why we should practice communication methods. I'll give you some tips and some tricks, and then we'll talk about a couple of communication scenarios in which we are going to ask you what you would do. So why should we be practicing communication? Communication is relatively complex and can be used to prevent behavior, start behavior, stop behavior, increase behaviors or performance, or decrease behavior. This can be true for both a teacher and a colleague. If you are speaking with a student, so your communication methods could be essential in changing behaviors within students. Also with colleagues, if you talk to colleagues and you use healthy communication methods, you will have a more peaceful work environment in which there are no negative behaviors exhibited. These practices also create long-term positive effects. What this means is that if you model and practice communication within your classroom, you can also teach students to do the same and communicate well with each other, both in the classroom and as they move forward in their education and as they become adults as well. So the importance of mutual respect within a classroom environment. Communication builds an environment of shared respect for both teacher-to-student relationships and student-to-student relationships. Like I just said previously, when you model communication in a healthy way, students will communicate with each other in a healthy way. It also ensures that students and parents are aware that you have the students' best interests at heart. And finally, it informs educators to create more personalized instruction that fosters genuine student engagement. So when you have mutual respect for your students, you get to know them better and they get to open up better, and then you can kind of use the information that you have about each student to really personalize instruction and make those engaged in their education. All right, so some tips and tricks. One thing that you can do is modeling. So you can either model your communication as the teacher in the classroom, or you can use other examples of communication, like video clips of TV, short films, etc. After spending some time either modeling yourself or showing video clips, you can have students analyze the communication of others for body language, tone, eye contact. You can talk to them about whether or not their communication was effective or not, all of those kinds of things. You should also place emphasis on active listening, because communication is not just actively communicating yourself, it's also listening to what other people are communicating to you. That's something that's really important that kids should really understand, and their teacher can help them understand that. And then finally, include projects that require communication. These can be things like presentations, debates, discussion strategies, or group projects that kind of help them practice team building. Currently in education, we are facing something that we have obviously never faced before. This would be virtual learning. So some tips and tricks for virtual learning are: pay attention to how you say it. We might not be as, or the students might not be as aware of the way that they sound when they type their communication rather than speak it. But as teachers, we're always, or as even adults, we're always taught that the way that you type things down, they can be interpreted a certain way depending on how you type it. So you need to make sure that you pay attention to how you say things, as far as giving directions, or even if you're kind of redirecting a student through virtual learning, you want to make sure that you're paying attention to how you say it, using word choice, punctuation, all of that kind of stuff. For example, you never really want to, unless you're very clearly excited or happy, you never really want to use exclamation points, because that could make it seem like you're yelling. You also never really want to fully capitalize everything that you're saying. Also, that can make it feel like you're yelling. Through social media, you can teach healthy communication, whether this is discussion about social media or having students do projects using social media. You can help them understand healthy communication methods, because as we're all aware, social media is something that is very, very prevalent in their lives. It's something that they watch other people communicate on, and a lot of the time those other people are not communicating in a healthy way. So you can have them look at examples of communication on social media, and kind of teach them how to communicate through their social media pages and create projects to do that as well. And then last is simplicity, especially when it comes to giving directions or maybe even just an announcement. Simplicity and keeping it short and simple when you're dealing with students, actually of any age, is really important. You don't want to give them an entire paragraph to read before they do an assignment. Every assignment should have no more than 1 or 2 lines of direction. Here are some tips, and this should say tricks, so I'm going to fix it. There you go. Here are some tips and tricks involving engagement. So I firmly believe that if you begin the school year every year with get-to-know-you activities to learn about the students' interests, hobbies, moments of pride that they've had in their lives, struggles they may have had, etc., you should use this to inform your instruction. So when you're creating lessons, you can think about some of the things that interest some of your students and then be able to really keep them engaged in what they're doing. Second, you can ask open-ended questions, which allows students to respond and explain their reasoning. So instead of just saying, do you like this? Say things, what do you like about this and why? And having them really explain their thinking. You can also use pop culture when appropriate, like social media, video clips, current events, or what would you do scenarios, meaning like how would you fix this problem that we are facing in society today? When I say when appropriate, I think it's definitely good to, as a teacher, feign that you don't know things that are going on, even if you do, especially when it comes to different pop culture things that might not be age appropriate for the student population that you're speaking to. And then finally, and I think most importantly, you should offer student choice. When you give assignments, you can allow for students to have things that they can do after they finish, or when you actually give an assignment, you can provide a choice board on that assignment. So for example, when I was teaching class, I would have students in half and half different stations, and one of the stations was individual work. I created a bingo card with different creative assignments on that bingo card. So whenever the students finished their individual work on the other station, they were able to take out that bingo card, finish an assignment in that bingo card, and then once they got a certain amount done, they would win prizes. Also, when it comes to choice boards, you can have students choose the text that they're going to read, dependent on what the text is about. Maybe the text is about sports, or the text is about animals, or whatever the students might be interested in. You can also have students choose what assignments they want to do and why. Maybe one student likes writing more than reading, or maybe vice versa, and they can choose a reading assignment instead of a writing assignment, whatever the case may be. So I'm going to go over a couple of different scenarios, and I'm going to allow for you to take some time to think about what you would do. So the first is an interaction with a student in class. Second is an interaction with a student over virtual learning. Third is an interaction with a colleague. And then fourth is an interaction with a parent. A student in the classroom is participating and very engaged in a whole group discussion regarding bullying. The student does not always actively participate, so this is exciting for the teacher to see. The teacher calls on the student after seeing their hand raise. The student states that they think students who get bullied are allowing it to happen and that they should not be looked at as victims. You do not want to stifle this student's desire to participate, but you want to make sure that the classroom understands that bullying is not at the fault of the student being bullied. What do you do? You provide the students with an assignment to complete over virtual learning. You monitor the assignment to make sure that any time a student asks a question, you are there to answer it as soon as they ask. You get a notification that says a student commented saying, "This is too much work." How do you respond to this student? Include information regarding punctuation, word choice, length, etc. You work together with the special education teachers to help inform IEPs, activities, assignment modification, accommodations, etc. The special ed teacher is supposed to take the students for half of the class time to provide them with small group instruction as stated on their IEP. However, almost 1 or 2 times a week, the teacher informs you that they cannot take the students for a variety of reasons, making it so that you have them for the entire block and they do not receive specialized services that day. You want to maintain a peaceful work environment, but you are worried that legal consequences could be pursued due to the students missing services in their IEPs. What do you do? A student has been continuously disruptive in the classroom. You redirect them once, then again, and the behavior does not stop. After the third incident, you take the student out into the hallway and speak with them about their behavior. You tell them that they're not only hurting their education, but the education of their peers. You tell them that if they do not stop this behavior, you will have to write them up. They return to class, but they are visibly upset. You receive a phone call from their parent, who is irate, stating that you shamed their student. How do you respond? The next two slides detail what I would personally do as an educator in all of these scenarios. If you would like to look through, this slide and the next detail what I would do and why. Thank you so much for your participation and your attention for today. That is it. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a good day.